In 1987, a young man named Marcus stood outside a bank in the city. He had $37 in his pocket. No inheritance, no connections, no safety net. His father was a factory worker. His mother cleaned offices on weekday mornings. He had no degree, no mentor, no roadmap, just $37 and a question that had been burning in him since childhood. Why do some people have everything, and others, who work just as hard, who try just as much, never seem to break through? That question sent Marcus on a 30-year journey, not to find luck, not to find a shortcut, but to find the rules. The actual operating rules that wealthy people follow, that are never written in any school textbook, that are never taught in any classroom, that are passed quietly from generation to generation inside families that already know them, and withheld, not maliciously, not deliberately, but by silence, from everyone who was not born into the conversation. Today, Marcus is 53 years old. His net worth is over $500 million. And tonight, sitting across from David at a dinner table, he is going to share every single one of those rules. All 7 of them. Not in vague terms, not in motivational language, in the specific, numbered, actionable form that he wished someone had shared with him when he was standing outside that bank with $37 and a burning question. Stay with us, because by the end of this video, you will not just know the rules. You will understand, for the first time, why you were never told them, and what changes the moment you start applying them. This is the most important financial video we have ever made. Before Marcus shares rule number 1, welcome to Finext Wealth. If this is your first time here, we are genuinely glad you found us. This channel exists for every person who was never handed the financial rulebook, who built their life on instinct and hard work and still wondered why the gap never closed. Hit subscribe right now. Turn on your notifications. And if someone in your life is working hard and wondering why the numbers never seem to add up, share this video with them before Marcus shares rule number 1. Because the first rule is the one that changes how you see every financial decision you have ever made. Now, back to Marcus and the dinner table where everything is about to change for David. The restaurant is busy. A Thursday evening, tables full, waiters moving quickly between conversations, the kind of warm noise that makes private conversations feel safe. David is here because his colleague insisted. He said, "David, you need to meet this man. Just have dinner. Just listen." David has heard things like this before. He is not easily impressed. He has met successful people. He has read their books. He has attended their seminars. And he is still, at 44 years old, sitting with a modest salary, a small savings account, and a financial future that does not match the size of his ambition. Marcus arrives. He is unremarkable in appearance. A plain dark jacket. No visible watch. No performance of wealth. He sits down, orders water. Look at David directly. He says, "I hear you want to understand how money actually works." David says, "I've been trying to figure that out for 20 years. Marcus says, 20 years is about right. That is how long it took me to figure out the first rule. And once I understood the first rule, the other 6 took about 3 years. David leans forward. Marcus says, "Are you ready?" David says, "I have been ready since I was 22. Marcus smiles. He says, "Good. Because rule 1 is going to challenge everything you think you know about money. Rule 1, money follows value, not effort." Marcus begins. He says, "The first thing I learned, after years of working harder than anyone around me and getting nowhere, is that the world does not pay you for how hard you work. It pays you for the value you create. These are not the same thing." David nods. He has heard this before. Marcus says, "Wait, because you think you understand this. But you do not. Not yet." He leans forward. He says, "I spent 8 years as an employee working 60-hour weeks. 60 hours of effort. Every week. For 8 years. My salary went up slowly. My savings went up barely at all. Then I spent 1 year building a simple online resource that helps small businesses find suppliers. That resource, which I built in 12 months, generated more income in its first year than my previous 8 years of employment combined. Same brain, same effort, different value created." David sits back. Marcus says, The question is never how hard am I working. The question is, what problem am I solving? For how many people? And how badly do they need it solved? The person who solves a problem for 1,000 people earns more than the person who works 1,000 hours. The person who solves a problem for 1 million people earns more than any employee alive. Effort is the input. Value is the currency. And the world pays in currency, not input. This is Rule 1. And it is the rule that every employed person, every hardworking, disciplined, reliable employee gets wrong every single day. Rule 2. Your income has a ceiling. Your assets do not. Marcus continues. He says, the second rule follows directly from the first. He draws 2 lines on a napkin. Line 1, labeled income from work. It rises steadily, incrementally, with promotions, with raises, with years of service. But it has a ceiling. Always. The ceiling is the maximum the market will pay for your specific time. Line 2, labeled income from assets. It starts low, almost invisible, but it has no ceiling, because assets compound, and compounding, given enough time, has no mathematical limit. Marcus says, I've not worked for a salary in 18 years. Every pound I earn today comes from things I built or bought. That continues to generate income, whether I am awake or asleep, whether I am in this restaurant or in a hospital bed, whether I am working or resting or doing nothing at all. David says, how do you build those things when you have nothing to start with? Marcus says, Rule 3 answers that. But first, understand this. Every year you spend trading only time for money is a year your asset column stays empty. And an empty asset column has no ceiling. It has a floor. And that floor is the day you can no longer work. Rule 3. Save nothing. Invest everything above your floor. David raises an eyebrow. He says, save nothing. Marcus says, saving money in a bank account is financial treading water. You stay afloat. You do not move forward. The rule is not, save money. The rule is, establish the minimum floor your life requires. Cover the floor. Every month. Non-negotiable. Everything above the floor, invest. Not some of it. Everything above the floor. No lifestyle inflation. No upgrade. No reward spending. Everything above the floor. Into assets that compound. David says, but what about emergencies? Marcus says, that is your first investment. Before stocks. Before property. Before anything. Build a 6-month emergency floor. Because without it, every crisis becomes debt. And debt is a leak in the bucket that no investment can outpace. David says, how long did that take you? Marcus says, 22 months. I lived on almost nothing for 22 months. I drove a car that embarrassed me. I ate the lunches I packed at 5 in the morning. I said no to every social event that cost money. 22 months. And then the floor was built. And the moment the floor was built, every pound above it had one destination. Growth. Rule 4. Your environment is your financial destiny. Marcus pauses. He looks at David carefully. He says, who are the 5 people you spend the most time with financially? David thinks. He names them. Marcus says, and what is their average net worth? David calculates. He says, probably around 40 to 60,000. Marcus nods slowly. He says, and your net worth? David is quiet. Marcus says, I am not saying this to embarrass you. I am saying this because it is the most statistically reliable predictor of financial outcome that exists. You become the financial average of your 5 closest relationships. Not because of peer pressure, not because of lifestyle copying, because of what becomes normal, what gets discussed, what gets celebrated, what gets considered ambitious versus unrealistic. When David's closest friends consider a modest annual raise a major success, a rental property feels like an impossible dream. When Marcus surrounded himself with people who owned multiple properties, a rental property felt like the obvious next step. Marcus says, I am not telling you to abandon your friends. I am telling you to add people to your life who are operating at the level you want to reach. One mentor, one community, one conversation a month with someone who has built what you are trying to build. Your environment is not just where you live. It is the financial ceiling your brain accepts as normal. And normal, once established, is almost impossible to exceed. Rule 5. Time is the only investment that cannot be recovered. Marcus says, every financial mistake I have made in my life, every bad investment, every wrong decision, every miscalculation, I have recovered from it. Every single one. Except one. The years I did not invest when I was young. Those years, I cannot buy back. And the compounding those years would have generated is the most expensive thing I never purchased. He draws a number on the napkin. He says, if I had invested $500 a month from the age of 22, at an average market return of 8%, by 52 I would have had $1.9 million. I started at 32 instead of 22. Same amount, same return. By 52, $740,000. The 10-year delay cost me $1.1 million. Not from making a bad investment, from making no investment. Marcus says, David, how old are you? David says, 44. Marcus says, then the second best time to start was yesterday. The third best time is today. And the fourth best time does not exist, because every day you wait is a day of compounding you will never get back. Rule 6. Learn more than you earn. Marcus says, this one surprises people. He says, every year since I was 23, I have spent a minimum of 10% of my income on financial education. Books, courses, mentors, coaches, events, not entertainment. Education. The kind of education that directly produces financial returns. David says, 10% is a lot. Marcus says, the course that cost me £2,000 taught me how to structure a property deal that generated £80,000 in equity. That is a 40-fold return. No market delivers 40 times. The mentor that cost me £5,000 in consulting fees introduced me to a business partner. That partnership produced £23 million over 6 years. The book that cost me £12 changed how I thought about risk. That mental shift alone has been worth more than I can calculate. Marcus says, most people spend money on things that depreciate. Cars, electronics, clothes. The richest people I know spend disproportionately on things that appreciate. And the highest appreciating asset on earth is a mind that knows how to see what others miss. Invest in yours before you invest in anything else. Rule 7. Give before you feel you can afford to. David looks up from his notes. He was not expecting this one. Marcus says, I know. This one always surprises people. He says, when I had $37, I gave $3 to a man sleeping in a doorway. Not because it made financial sense, because it established, in my own mind, in my own relationship with money, that I was not a person defined by scarcity. That money flowed through me, not just to me. Marcus says, every wealthy person I have ever known, without exception, gives before they feel they can afford to. Not recklessly, not beyond their means, but consistently, purposefully, before the voice that says wait until you have more. Because waiting until you have more to give is the same thinking that makes people wait until they have more to invest. It never comes. The abundance mindset, the one that wealthy people operate from, is not the product of wealth. It is the seed of it. David says, so giving creates wealth. Marcus says, no. Giving creates the mindset that makes wealth possible. And the mindset, applied through the other 6 rules, creates wealth. He finishes his water. He says, that is all 7. And then he says something quietly that David writes on the back of his hand, because he does not have a napkin left. He says, the rules are not secret. They never were. They are just only ever told to the people who already know them. Until now, the restaurant has quieted. Most tables have emptied. A waiter refills their water without being asked. David looks at his notes. 7 rules, written in his handwriting, covering both sides of the napkin Marcus drew on. He says, why did nobody tell me this? Marcus says, someone told me the same thing. At the same age you are now. He says, the man who told me was not rich. He was a retired school janitor who had somehow, on a janitor's salary, built a modest property portfolio, an investment account, and a life entirely free of financial stress. He said to me what I am saying to you now. These are not secrets. They are just conversations that have not reached you yet. David looks at Rule 1 written on the napkin. Money follows value, not effort. He thinks about 12 years of effort and about the value those 12 years created for the company that employed him, not for himself. He folds the napkin. He puts it in his jacket pocket. He looks at Marcus. He says, "I'm going to start tomorrow." Marcus shakes his head gently. He says, "No, you are going to start tonight." On the drive home, Rule 5 begins the moment you decide it begins. Not tomorrow, tonight. David picks up his phone. He opens a brokerage account. He transfers the first amount he can afford. £80. Rule 5 has started. 7 rules. That is all that separates the person with $37 and a burning question from the person with $500 million and the peace that comes with it. Not luck, not connections, not being born into the right family. 7 rules. Followed consistently. Applied imperfectly. Built upon year after year. Let us say them one final time, so they stay with you long after this video ends. Rule 1. Money follows value, not effort. Rule 2. Your income has a ceiling. Your assets do not. Rule 3. Save nothing. Invest everything above your floor. Rule 4. Your environment is your financial destiny. Rule 5. Time is the only investment that cannot be recovered. Rule 6. Learn more than you earn. Rule 7. Give before you feel you can afford to. 7 rules. Available to you right now. Not tomorrow. Not when the income is higher. Not when the conditions are perfect. Right now. With whatever you have. Starting tonight. Before you leave this video. 3 things. First, hit the like button right now. Not for us. Because if this video gave you something, if even one of these 7 rules landed, the algorithm needs to know this video matters, so other people who need these rules can find them. Second, subscribe to Finext Wealth right now. This channel exists for every person who was never handed the financial rulebook they deserved. We are building it here, one story at a time, one rule at a time, for you. Third, and this is the most important ask we will ever make, drop a comment below this video. Tell us the one financial topic you want us to cover next. What is the question you have been carrying for years that nobody has given you a straight answer to? What is the story you want us to tell? Write it below. We read every single comment. Your question might become our next video. This channel is yours as much as it is ours, and it grows because of what you bring to it. Thank you for watching today. From everyone at Finext Wealth. Genuinely, deeply, completely. Thank you. Marcus started with $37. You started today. Welcome to Finext Wealth. We are so glad you are here.